Is he this gangster that behind the scenes is that him? Or is that
Shout out to Wendy Williams.
But tell me, man, why do you believe that Jay and Puffy is close, even though Jay's lawyer came out and said they're not?
Because Jay-Z and Puff was given an assignment.
Shocker. The very name makes the internet buckle. But this week, the tremors feel seismic. For nearly 3 decades, the world believed him gone gunned down in a Vegas drive-by. Another casualty of the East Coast-West Coast war. And yet, suddenly, social media is ablaze with one story. Shakur has resurfaced. Not a grainy Havana sighting, not another shadowy nightclub photo this time. The claim is bolder. He's alive, angry, and plotting to dismantle the twin empires of Jay-Z and Diddy. Hashtags like #Shakur exposes Jay-Z and #Diddy panics aren't just trending. They're suffocating the feed, dominating conversation above elections, scandals, and divorces. The internet is left gasping under one question, sharp in its simplicity. Could this be the most explosive, era-defining comeback in the history of music?
That was to destroy East Coast rap. And what I mean by that, and I know people gonna be like, yo, Gene is out of his mind and everything like that. Check this out, bro.
We're watching chaos unravel in real time. Social media is drowning in shaky videos, blurry screenshots, and breathless claims of a man uncannily resembling Shakur wandering the streets of Havana. Conspiracy clips once buried on YouTube are resurfacing. Bodyguard confessions are being dissected frame by frame, and a single phrase keeps echoing through the feed. He didn't just come back to rap. He came back for revenge. For fans who grew up on Machiavelli, the whispers are intoxicating. His disappearance, they argue, was never a tragedy, but a strategy, a calculated exile in Cuba. Shielded by political allies, quietly gathering evidence against his enemies. And to them, the clues were always there. A coroner's report that mysteriously didn't match his height. A cremator who vanished immediately after the supposed cremation, Suge Knight swearing he was never gone. Now the story burning online is that nearly 3 decades of silence are about to be shattered. And the first casualties? Jay-Z and Diddy. The whispers drip with venom, fueled by talk of Shakur's alleged fatality memoir. Described like a forbidden manuscript locked away in Cuban vaults. Industry insiders claim this manuscript doesn't just name names, it detonates them. Executives, rivals, supposed friends. It allegedly maps out betrayals, conspiracies, and who profited most from his disappearance. Even more chilling, it supposedly documents in precise detail who played what role on that fateful night in Las Vegas, and in the fallout afterward, the tension online is unbearable. If this memoir is real, it doesn't just rewrite history, it obliterates it. And that's why Jay-Z and Diddy, 2 untouchable moguls, suddenly seem desperate to bury it.
I can't wait. I can't wait for everybody to find out what's really been going on in the back.
And then comes the second bombshell, one darker, more terrifying than any whispered memoir. For years, hushed rumors have circled about secret recordings, tapes Shakur allegedly made before 1996. Now that chatter has erupted into a deafening roar. These aren't freestyle demos or scraps of unfinished verses. These are said to be private conversations moments where Jay-Z and Diddy were caught on tape, allegedly discussing corruption, orchestrated violence, and cover-ups so massive they'd make Watergate feel like a playground scuffle, if such tapes exist. And if they ever see daylight, the consequences would be apocalyptic. Billion-dollar brands, sports agencies, streaming empires, everything they've built could vanish in smoke. Picture Jay-Z, the hustler-turned-mogul, who once preached financial wisdom. Suddenly hearing his younger voice echoing through courtrooms, congressional hearings, and primetime news. Now picture Diddy already staggering under lawsuits and scandal. Tethered not just to debauched parties, but to the original sin of hip-hop's greatest mystery. The timing couldn't be worse. Jay-Z's carefully engineered evolution from Brooklyn's Marcy Project's crack dealer to sleek visionary behind luxury ventures now risks imploding. His proud unveiling of a wellness startup, pitched as a mission of dignity, care, and consistency, may be reframed not as a redemption arc, but as a smokescreen for decades of ruthless maneuvering. And critics aren't the only sharks circling. Enter 50 Cent, gleefully lobbing Molotovs into the storm. Ever the provocateur, he mocked Jay-Z's loyalty to Diddy, posting "Friends to the end." "JR, are you still there?" alongside references to explosions and intimidation. Social media devoured it instantly, amplifying the sense that standing beside Diddy no longer signals loyalty, but liability if the tapes are real. History doesn't just whisper, it detonates.
Just competitive.
Competitiveness. All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him.
Okay,
like that.
damn. All right, I didn't know what that meant. Then. All right, okay.
Meanwhile, Diddy's once mighty empire is collapsing under its own weight. Once the kingmaker of Bad Boy Records, he now stands as the accused in federal indictments. Painted by prosecutors as the leader of a criminal enterprise steeped in racketeering, trafficking, and coercion. The courtroom has become a theater of dread. Witnesses vanish, others falter, yet the cases only grow darker. Lawyers whisper of multi-million-dollar NDAs, hushed settlements, and unreleased footage from those infamous freak-offs. And now, layered atop it all, comes the alleged resurrection of Shakur pointing a spectral finger straight at Diddy. Prosecutors already likened Diddy's empire to Epstein's shadowy kingdom. But if Shakur truly left behind tapes tying him to cover-ups, orchestrated violence, and worse, then Diddy isn't just fighting lawsuits. He's staring down annihilation.
And then what's the stuff that's happening with Wendy Williams? Do you think this is all connection too?
Of course.
The conspiracies now twist so tightly, they make the entire industry tremble. On TikTok, theorists have gone further, linking Jay-Z, Diddy, and even Beyonce to a chilling pattern. The untimely deaths of Aaliyah Left Eye and Michael Jackson all on the 25th of different months? Coincidence or coded ritual? The speculation spins wildly. Beyonce's near-worship status at award shows, with Adele once breaking a trophy in her honor, is reinterpreted not as admiration, but as allegiance to a secretive network. The evidence is flimsy, but the virality is undeniable. When whispers of Shakur's hidden tapes resurface, the unthinkable suddenly feels possible. If Shakur faked his death, lived under Castro's protection in Cuba, and is now prepared to leak secrets, then who's to say the rest of the puzzle? Pieces aren't connected. Each leaked document only tightens the noose. In one covertly recorded police interview, Diddy's name was mentioned 47 times in connection to Shakur's 1996 drive-by. Keefe D., the Southside figure now awaiting trial, once claimed Diddy offered millions for the heads of both Shakur and Suge Knight. Long dismissed as fantasy, the claim gains new weight as prosecutors quietly draw lines between Diddy's trafficking case and Shakur's unsolved murder. Courtroom or not, the court of public opinion has begun its trial and verdict looks damning.
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make a...
The industry now stands on shaky ground, its walls caving in from every direction. Jay-Z, who once admitted in Vanity Fair that he sold crack just to survive, now finds himself dodging whispers of darker, more damning deeds from his past. Diddy, who built his empire on glossy commercials, luxury branding, and CRX-fueled parties, now faces a future legal experts warn could mean life behind bars. And looming above them both like a ghost who refuses to stay buried is Tupac Shakur Weather. Flesh and blood or myth, reborn threatening to topple everything with memoirs, tapes, and truths the industry desperately wants hidden. Is Shaka back to settle the ultimate score? And if so, can the music industry survive the fallout? The question circles back to motive. Why would Shakur vanish in the first place? For years, the official story was carved in stone that his fate was sealed on the Vegas Strip in 1996. Yet those who've traced the trail insist that so-called ending was nothing more than camouflage. Whispers claimed powerful figures wanted him gone, and the only escape was to fake his death and disappear into the shadows. Former security operatives speak of late-night flights to the Caribbean, of Fidel Castro himself granting sanctuary in Havana of body doubles used to perfect the illusion, if true. And Shakur didn't just survive, he executed the longest, most dangerous play in music history. Not as retreat, but as strategy. A desperate act of self-preservation, or the opening. Move in a war that may only now be reaching its final climax.
Potential. Jay was more quiet. But I mean, I learned that Jay was being quiet because he was taking notes. He was taking notes, observing everything, taking it all in. You know, because, you know, sometimes you're around and you're watching to see things to do. But some people are around.
The focus sharpens on the rivalry that once split hip-hop in two. Everyone remembers Shakur versus Biggie, the East Coast versus the West Coast. But beneath those headlines was another tension, one that now looks far more telling. Jay-Z was still a young Brooklyn hustler then, selling mixtapes out of car trunks, hustling his way into the industry, just as Shakur stood at his peak. And then, almost as if history was rearranging itself, Shakur was gone. Within months of his supposed passing, Jay-Z's career began its unstoppable ascent. He was the hungry protege who suddenly found a clear runway. His debut album dropped in 1996, the same year Shakur vanished. And within a decade, Jay-Z wasn't just a rapper, he was an empire dash builder. So, we'll have to ask, was Shakur's fall the ultimate chess move, clearing the board for Jay-Z's rise? Or was it simply brutal luck? A cruel twist of timing that buried one man and crowned another. Jay-Z himself has never shied away from his past. He once explained, to be in a deal, you need to know what you can spend, what you need to rue up. At some point, you have to have an exit strategy, he was speaking. About hustling on the streets, but could the same philosophy have fueled his industry rise? Two conspiracy theorists that, quote, sounds like more than metaphor. It echoes like a blueprint. The mindset of someone who understood the streets weren't the only battlefield. And when you align the timing, the feuds, and the silence after, Shakur's disappearance, the puzzle pieces snap together in chilling, shadowed symmetry.
I don't think they are scared of him. I think they more so, they don't want him to embarrass their reputation and things that they've been known for. You understand?
Fast forward to now, and the man once hailed as hip-hop's eternal showman deities, unraveling before our eyes. The mogul who built Bad Boy Records into a cultural juggernaut now sits in federal custody, accused of orchestrating parties steeped in coercion, manipulation, and control. Prosecutors allege he transformed his label into a criminal enterprise. And the trial has already revealed chilling details, missing witnesses, sealed NDAs, and recordings seized during raids. The charges alone could carry a lifetime behind bars. In such a fragile state, the last thing he can afford is a ghost from his past, especially one armed with evidence tying him to Shakur's disappearance. Signs of panic are everywhere. His social feeds have gone silent, the once brash presence shrinking into absence. Behind the scenes, his lawyers scramble, filing frantic motions to dismiss claims, sanction rivals, and bury allegations under paperwork. Yet the desperation shows. Each time 50 Cent mocks him online, or when artists whisper that Diddy has become radioactive, the cracks widen. His empire, once untouchable, looks ready to collapse. And if Shakur truly has resurfaced backed by memoirs and tapes, long hidden then, Diddy's problems extend far beyond the courtroom. The past is colliding with the present, and the accusations may finally bury him.
Continue to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed off.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening.
Think about the irony. For years, Diddy's name has floated in police files and documentaries tied to whispers about Shakur's Vegas shooting. Insiders claimed he once offered millions for the hit, allegations he brushed off as fantasy. Now, with Shakur allegedly alive and preparing to speak, those old accusations feel less like idle gossip and more like prophecy fulfilled. Federal raids on Diddy's mansions already uncovered evidence that painted him as a predator. If Shakur emerges with proof connecting Diddy to that fateful night in 1996 and exposing cover-ups that could rewrite music history, then this isn't just the fall of an empire. It's the making of hip-hop's ultimate villain, and the stakes stretch far beyond one man. If Shakur truly holds memoirs and tapes implicating not only Diddy, but also Jay-Z, the fallout could scorch the entire industry. Labels, executives, even global icons would be dragged into the fire. Conspiracists point to strange patterns, the eerie timing of Aaliyah, Left Eye in Michael Jackson's death swile. TikTok spins connections that link Beyoncé herself to a system that protects the chosen few. To skeptics, it's coincidence. To believers, it's proof of a machine willing to sacrifice anyone. If Shakur intends to expose it, every superstar forged in its shadow suddenly looks fragile.
That was all the people that went to the Puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once they go fluid.
We must consider the possibility that this entire narrative is not simply about revenge. Tupac Shakur, for all the headlines about his music and his feuds, was always more than just an artist. He was a thinker, a strategist, a man who studied the lessons of Machiavelli and understood the dangerous power of illusion. To him, the concept of disappearing and reappearing wasn't just theatrics, it was strategy. Maybe faking his passing wasn't merely about self-preservation, but about positioning himself to return when the world was most vulnerable, when the timing could truly reshape culture. If this theory holds weight, then Shakur's reappearance would not just mark the return of a legendary rapper, it would ignite a revolution against an industry long accused of preying on its brightest stars. For decades, whispers of unfair contracts, stolen royalties, and manipulated careers have haunted the music business. Countless artists have described being chewed up and discarded by the very machine that promised them fame. Shakur himself, even at the height of his success, was fearless in calling out corruption and manipulation in interviews, lyrics, and public appearances. His survival, if proven, would not just make him a symbol of resilience, it would turn him into the face of rebellion. Phil, one insider, explained why Shakur may be choosing to speak now. He said the reason is accountability because silence only allows predators to run unchecked. Shakur's supposed mission aligns with that. The exploitation of artists is hardly a new phenomenon. Hip-hop, like many genres before it, has seen careers destroyed by shadowy deals, bad contracts, and executives who thrive on opacity. Young talents are often lured into signing deals they barely understand, seduced by upfront advances but trapped in long-term agreements that funnel profits upward, leaving them with scraps. Entire catalogs have been sold without consent, entire legacies controlled by corporations that see art only as assets. And when artists dared to resist, they were quietly blacklisted, erased, or punished. This dynamic was something Shakur warned about repeatedly. He saw the machine for what it was, a system of control. If he truly has returned armed with evidence documents, recordings, testimonies that map out 3 decades of corruption, it would not just validate generations of suspicion. It would be explosive proof that the industry's glittering success was built on exploitation. Imagine the impact of 30 years of files connecting powerful names, corporate boardrooms, and even celebrated icons to a machine designed to strip artists of power while protecting the elite few. That would also explain why Shakur allegedly went underground for so long. Beyond escaping immediate danger after 1996, hiding in Cuba or elsewhere could have given him decades to gather intelligence, to watch how the industry evolved, and to connect the dots between different eras. What if every strange pattern, every sudden death, every suppressed voice was not random but part of a larger cycle? 3 decades of notes and proof would be heavy enough to not only topple individual moguls, but potentially trigger scrutiny of the very structure of the music business itself. And that's where the stakes widen. From major labels to modern streaming platforms, the entire infrastructure of how music is created, distributed, and monetized could face collapse under that kind of spotlight. Today's generation of artists already shows signs of rebellion. Many are louder about independence, forming their own labels, demanding ownership of their masters, and calling for transparency. Social media has given them the power to bypass gatekeepers entirely. The younger wave of musicians, from hip-hop to pop to R&B, increasingly reject the contracts of old. If Shakur emerges now, aligning himself with this movement, he would instantly become more than a survivor. He would become the revolutionary elder who validates and accelerates the fight. His presence alone could unite a fragmented resistance, transforming scattered protests into an organized rebellion. What young artists are already doing in isolation, fighting for ownership, rejecting manipulation, demanding respect, could become a coordinated cultural movement under the guidance of someone who lived through the system's darkest days. In this light, the story is no longer about revenge. It's bigger than even justice for one man. It becomes a battle between an entrenched empire of secrecy, wealth, and power, and the voices of creators demanding freedom. Shakur's alleged return could be the rallying cry, the spark that ignites a reckoning the music industry has avoided for generations. We have not seen anything like it since the civil rights era, when music was inseparably tied to social upheaval. If that is the true purpose behind his comeback, then the world is about to confront something far larger than scandal. It will face a revolution. And as for the individuals at the center of this storm, the implications are devastating. Diddy has already been raided, his empire shaken, his legacy questioned. If Shakur ties him to the events of 1996, to corruption, or even to crimes that go beyond what's been whispered, then his fall is inevitable. But Diddy would not be the last domino. After him comes Jay-Z, the billionaire mogul, who built an empire in the late 90s and early 2000s. Shakur's alleged memoirs and tapes reportedly connect him as well. If those documents exist, the questions will come. What doors opened for Jay-Z in those years? What did he know? What alliances made his meteoric rise possible? If Shakur holds the answers, then Jay-Z could be forced to confront truths he has long kept buried. Diddy faces the fight of his life already, but Jay-Z could soon find himself drawn into the same battle. And Beyoncé, by association, would not escape unscathed. For those who see patterns in the strange timing of Aaliyah Left Eye and Michael Jackson's deaths, this is not paranoia, but a warning. For the mainstream, it remains coincidence. But for the conspiracists, Shakur's reappearance would confirm what they always believed, that a machine protects its chosen few and sacrifices whoever threatens the order. So here we are, standing at the edge of something that feels bigger than any scandal in music history. If Shakur is alive, if he truly comes forward, then what lies ahead is not a comeback story. It is a reckoning that hip-hop never wanted, but perhaps always deserved. And so we leave you with one final question. If Tupac Shakur is truly back, is he here simply to settle old scores, or is he here to burn down an industry built on betrayal, secrecy, and blood? Let us know what you believe in the comments below, because this story is far from over. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, truth has a way of emerging when we least expect it.